News Talk is online. News Talk Online, a production of paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube and on Blip TV and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not, no retribution. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we're syndicated to an additional 12 million households. I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show, and I remind you, as I always do, to go to reportergary.com, reportergary.com. Go there early and often, just like voting in Chicago, for stories that you may or may not see, hear, or read in the mainstream media. Joining us to talk about public health policy in the United States is our friend, Dr. Michael Rushnak, who is host of a program here on the Pal Talk News Network and co-founder of Americans for Healthcare. He is joining us from New Jersey. I'm wondering, Dr. Rushnak, if you are as surprised as am I that so soon after the legislation passed following what was very contentious argumentation leading to the vote, it's not settled. It's coming up once again so soon.
Gary, it's a great question. I believe the politicians and the Republicans, as you know, really did not cast a single vote for the Affordable Care Act, and they labeled the act Obamacare, and obviously they labeled it for political reasons so that the rise and fall of the president's popularity could be linked to the bill, and if you didn't like the president, you could maybe convince people you didn't like the bill. Where we come from at Americans for Healthcare is from a totally different perspective. We do not believe the way to work healthcare is through the political process. We actually believe that they work for us, although I think most of the American people, or at least a majority, have been brainwashed to believe that somehow they know more about healthcare than healthcare professionals. And I'm just listening to Cassandra talk and seeing a lot of similarities. We only wish in America, we only wish that healthcare professionals have as much input into healthcare policy as possibly they do in Great Britain. We don't have very much input. 25 years ago, when I was in private practice, and I've been a physician for 36 years, I tried to get inside the process. And became a delegate for President Clinton, and I thought that I could make a difference until I found out that they really didn't want physician involvement. And over the years, I've become disenchanted with the political process. To me, healthcare is about lives, people, saving lives, preventing suffering. It's not about the next election. It's about keeping us well. And I'm just totally disenchanted with the whole political process. So to sum up, the Americans for Healthcare is a people's movement, just like the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage movement, where they led Congress. Congress did not act proactively on that. So this Affordable Care Act, labeled Obamacare, was certainly the first step forward to give us health care in America, provisions that we didn't have for, since Medicare, since that was argued back in the 60s. It did not go far enough, and it certainly was not a bill that I would have written, or most physicians or nurses would have written. And Americans for Healthcare believes we need healthcare professionals, we need informed citizens to work with us and to form massive numbers of people, which will then march in Washington peacefully and hopefully get redressed by being invited into Congress so that our views in healthcare as experts on healthcare, and we are the experts on healthcare. I watch so many C-SPAN shows on TV with Congress holding hearings on the health bill, and I also watch Gary today. where they were arguing with pure rhetoric. It was pure rhetoric, all aimed at winning the next election and trying to defeat the president, etc. That has nothing to do with health care. I'm outraged that every day 123 people die in the United States of America because they don't have access to basic health care, and meanwhile Congress fiddles while Rome burns and people are dying. So we start Americans for Health Care to unite people. Our only enemies are death, greed, and and suffering. We're nonpartisan. We want to unite all Americans. We invite everyone to join our movement. We're growing very rapidly, and we really believe we, the people, including healthcare professionals, is really the solution for the healthcare. And by the way, America is so far behind the rest of the world. So I applaud the rest of the world for getting to where they've basically covered most of the people in America. We're nowhere near that. And I think we need to make sure that the politicians understand they work for us, we elect them, and we need to have our voices heard.
You know, you told me a great story, sad, but a very interesting story at dinner the other day, Dr. Michael Rushnak from Americans for Healthcare, about going to one of the many, some infamous town hall meetings held by Congress members over the summer break, where they discussed this legislation that recently passed and now today may get repealed in the House, probably not in the Senate, but probably so in the House of Representatives. And you asked a congressman a very interesting question about whether he or any other members of Congress had consulted in the writing of the bill, and I think he was a major sponsor of the bill, with anybody in the healthcare community.
That's correct. And the question was, with all due respect, Congressman, have you invited any rank and file nurses and doctors in the writing of the bill? And he said no. And I followed up and said, with all due respect, do you believe that you as a political figure know more about health care than physicians or nurses? And he said no again. And I said, well, I'm trying to understand two no's. You believe we have knowledge and can help, but yet you haven't invited us inside the tent, so to speak, to help write the bill. And I'm talking about rank and file doctors and nurses throughout the country. I'm not talking about paid consultants, and I'm not talking about people who are appointed, political appointees. I'm talking about regular docs and nurses. I thought that was really eye-opening. Right after that is when we formed Americans for Healthcare. I think that was, Gary, the straw that broke the camel's back. In my mind, I've always believed to try to work within the system, to try to make changes. And I mentioned earlier, I met Dr. Howard Dean on the floor of the Madison Square Garden at the 1992 Democratic Convention in New York City, and we kept in touch after the convention, and it was interesting. And we both met the president, and when Hillary Care came in, it's interesting, they called it Hillary Care, now it's called Obamacare. They try to tie it to the political process. Again, we're here to say healthcare is not about politics. It's about people, and the American people have to start accepting that. Nurses, by the way, have the highest credibility on a Gallup poll in America. 99% trustworthiness. Doctors are about 80%. Congress, 11%. So why are we trusting Congress to make the laws without the input? So I think Americans for Healthcare stands nonpartisan activists who really want to get involved. I ask you all to join our movement. Martin Luther King did it with civil rights. There never would have been a civil rights bill without him. There never would have been a women's right to vote without the women's suffrage movement. It just seems like the way to go. And Cassandra, you'll recognize this quote. Winston Churchill once said, Sooner or later, I'm paraphrasing now, the Americans always do the right thing. Sooner or later. Well, the problem is, the later it gets, and every night when everyone puts their head on their pillows tonight, just remember one haunting thought. Another 123 people died needlessly because they didn't have access to affordable quality health care. It's a national disgrace. We need to fix it. I think the American people are ready to listen to healthcare professionals with credibility. We understand this. We're compassionate. We want to save lives. This is not about winning elections. And we are going to fight, and we are going to march, and we are going to be heard. And that's the democratic process in action.